Hello and good afternoon to you all. My name is Marco Vila. Today we'll be talking about a certain upcoming topical holiday that is probably in the minds of all of you. It certainly is on mine, and I hope you enjoy. That's right, today we'll be talking about Valentine's Day, a holiday that we all know and love, that we cherish within the bottom of our hearts, and that we especially spend more than a few pretty pennies on. Now, before I continue, I know what you're already thinking. That is certainly not the holiday that I'm thinking about. The one I'm thinking about is coming in a few weeks. This one's coming in a few months, and also not topical within the season today. What the heck are you talking about? Now, before continue to let you think, let me put this question forward. What exactly is Valentine's Day? What are we exactly celebrating here? Are we just demonstrating our love and affections to another person? Why now? Why do we choose that day to show our love instead of any other day of the 364 days in the year? And certainly, hey, are you just trying to sidetrack this so that we stop thinking about Thanksgiving Day? Anyways, without further ado, I shall now be providing you with an exorbitant amount of information that all has to do with Valentine's Day, a day in which you're only ever really thinking about a handful of times throughout the year. And if I were to be honest, most of those thoughts are occurring because it's the day of and not for much else. To begin, I will be giving you a historic recap about the holiday, such as who was the person that inspired it, as well as the people or group of people who were responsible for turning it into a day of celebration. I will also be talking about when Valentine's Day started turning into the holiday that we know and love in modern days. Speaking of which, my next point will be talking about the modern iterations of Valentine's Day. How much are we spending on it yearly, and how much different is it to how it was celebrated back then? This is mostly in the United States, however, because my following point will be talking about how the holiday is celebrated in Mexico and in Japan. After all, the holiday being about gift giving and showing tokens of and providing tokens of appreciation isn't exactly a crazy new invention. It's something that will probably be created every now and then by different people. This is the heartfelt story about a priest named Saint Valentine, through his actions would inspire the creation of the holiday that we all know and love. Or at least one of many different stories. See, there were many different types of origin stories relating to the creation of Valentine's Day. None that are widely agreed upon due to conflicting information, such as how there was only 3 recognized priests named Saint Valentine's, and how their existence would conflict within the timeline of the Roman Empire. Speaking of which, the most agreed upon story is that there was a priest named Saint Valentine who would exist during the Roman Empire, and more specifically during a time in which the emperor decided to enlist many single men in order to contribute to the war effort. However, most men realized that they could simply get married in order to avoid joining the war. The emperor had decided to make a declaration in which all single men cannot get married so that they could join the war. Here comes the priest that would decide to save most of the men of not having to join the war by ordaining many weddings. When the emperor found out, he decided to give him the capital punishment of execution. His actions would, and this is the mostly agreed upon story. Now, because of his actions of saving the lives of men from dying in an unnecessary war, his actions would be viewed by the would be causes for the Catholic Church to create a holiday surrounding his actions. Though this was less having to do with honoring his actions and more replacing with an already existing festival named Lupercalia, which existed to celebrate the existence of the Roman god of agriculture. And now it's time to but that's all in the past. Let's try to get a little forward into the past, in which we talk about the modern iteration, which we all know as giving gifts. The modern iteration occurred around the mid to the 17th century in Victorian England, during which tokens of affection would be replaced with, instead of actions, would instead be represented in the form of gifts, which is more aligned with how we celebrate the holiday today. Speaking of which, now let's talk about how the United States of America has decided to celebrate Valentine's Day in modern times. Now, of course, we shall be looking first into the origins of the holiday in the US. Now, one of the many things that had been brought over from England to the 13 colonies at the time, one of those aspects just so happened to be the single-day holiday, albeit due to the anti-British sentimentality occurring at the time and with its popularity in England at the time. Its debut as a nationally celebrated holiday would be pushed out until the 1840s. Once it began rising in popularity at the time, the modern interpretation of Valentine's Day would be introduced at the turn of the 20th century, when a company known as Hallmark would begin mass producing themed cards based around the holiday. This would prove to be successful, and a crucially important addition to the holiday, as a newly crucial addition to the holiday in terms of how the United States decides to celebrate it. As to this day, the United States makes an estimated $24 billion in sales revenue based around solely the holiday. Now let's talk about how other parts of the world decide to celebrate the Day of Valentine's, starting off with Mexico, mostly because of its near similarities to the United States. In Mexico, the Day of Valentinas is actually called El Día de Amor y Amistad, which roughly translates to the Day of Love and Friendship. This is because the holidays, instead of being celebrated in parejas or couples, it's instead celebrated in grupos or crowds, such as with family or friends, rather than just two people by themselves. And in Japan, while this holiday is almost celebrated in a similar fashion, with the crucial difference being that instead of the gift giving being done by the men to women, it's done by women to men. Along with that, there's actually an additional day that occurs 1 month after Valentine's Day, which is called White Day. White Day is almost celebrated similarly to Valentine's Day. However, instead of giving a gift, you're actually reciprocating the gift that was being given to you. And this is my reference page. Thank you for spending your time viewing my presentation and speech revolving around the historic, modern, and international interpretations of Valentine's Day, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.